And it looks like we are live. How are we all doing today? Give us a minute here, please, so I can grab our Facebook groups, get everybody in there, let these spinning wheels just kind of keep on churning. Brown Mary, keep on burning. Wow, that's a terrible pun. Green check marks across all platforms. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me as per usual is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle's senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, dude, it's finally over. I will say that it's always so much fun to do all the draft coverage and everything like that. And when you do 15 hours, 18 minutes, and 47 seconds of nonstop draft coverage over 3 days, it kind of gets to a grind, man. How you doing after what's been, 6-8 months worth of preparation for 15 hours, 18 minutes, and 47 seconds, man? How you doing?
Increase those months a little bit. I've been working on this year's draft since June last year. It's been a long road, and I'm excited because it's all done and over with. But now I got a vacation that I got to get ready for. Had to do all my draft prep stuff. I am so exhausted. I am ready to sleep for about 3 weeks straight, and I just won't be able to do that. So with the vacation, and then as soon as I get back, it's starting for draft stuff for next year. So at least it's not as much and everything. And appreciate everybody who joined in for those draft shows and all the support that we got for it. You guys, I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, and just allowing us to do all this work that we do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, or how on camera. There we go. That's the best way to put it. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for your support, and always.
Yeah, I'm with Erick on that one. It was a long grind this year. Like I've said multiple times, it was the most I've ever done. Erick obviously does way more than I do. 587 players, or however many the hell it was that you actually did this year. I did 220 and 183 finalized grades. But just you guys and your support, and always showing up every Friday, every night on the Mile High Huddle podcast network, and especially for the draft shows. You guys don't understand how much it means for your support and everything you guys do just to come and join in with us. We definitely appreciate that. But with that, things are moving forward. The Broncos are now in full phase of the offseason, everything after to this point. We obviously got Jerry Jeudy signing his 5th-year option, or the Broncos extending the 5th-year option to Jerry Jeudy the other day. There was some news with the Broncos agreeing to terms with an international player yesterday as well. A lot of news is still to come. However, this does not mean that we can't, continue to break down this roster and just understand where this team is looking at and where they're going to be moving forward here in 2023, 2024, and beyond. And we've got a good show planned up for you guys today. Obviously, the Broncos made 5 picks in the NFL draft the other day. There's still some holes on this roster. We're going to break them all down for you guys. And I've got a handful of players that I think will be able to fill those holes, despite the Broncos not having a whole lot of cap space. First things first, though, got to say hello to everybody in the chat. Malcolm Brown coming in from Homer, Alaska. What's going on? Michael Ronquillo jumping in with his usual support over on Facebook. Good evening, Lance and Erick on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go Broncos and buck them. Buck you too, Michael. Thank you, buddy. We definitely appreciate your support. We've got Lawrence Rivera in the hizzy as well, saying happy Cinco de Mayo, Broncos family. Yes, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. This is also Revenge of the 5th, because yesterday was May the 4th be with you. So that's shout out to my buddy Erick here and his love for Star Wars and all things with the Force and everything like that. Kevin Gray, Dylan Von Arx, and the Hizzy running everything behind the 1s and 2s, helping us moderate the chat and stuff like that. Scott's not with us tonight, got baseball with the kids again. So hopefully his son has good luck this weekend, and good luck to Scott and all of his family and everything like that. Mike S, Flazify, Dave Youngkin. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here on a wonderful Friday evening for Dove Valley Deep Divers. Now, Erick, I'm going to pass this off to you really fast. After going through the draft, I want you you've got a week to kind of process through everything, or 5 days or so, to process everything that the Broncos were able to accomplish. Just quickly here, what was your favorite pick and your least favorite pick for what the Broncos were able to do on Friday through Sunday?
Well, I had a article, and one of the things that I do after every draft is I go and do the value of it, and it's a very basic value. It's where they rank versus my board versus where they get drafted. And I do the same thing with the consensus board, because, I like that variation, and it's a good way to show where players that I was higher or lower on than the consensus board, and do that. And one thing that was great to see was after last year, where the Broncos in their total terms of value between both boards. They ranked 32nd after the 2021 or the 2022 NFL draft. 32nd out of 32nd. That means they had the worst value out of it. This year against my board, they were the first, and then they were fourth against the consensus board, showing how valuable the draft was, which when you only have 5 picks, that's what you got to do. Mm-hmm. Now, my favorite pick of the draft was Alex Forsyth. I've heard nothing but positive things about him. He kind of suffered a hamstring injury throughout the draft process, which saw him go a little bit lower. The offensive line guys who are coach him up outside of the NFL have absolutely raved about him and his work ethic and the skills that he has. He's a clean technician. He's got good power, good mobility, but he's just kind of a jack of all trades center, so he doesn't excel in one area. But that's fine. I mean, because you can still work with him either scheme. I really like that pick. For me, that was also the biggest value. I had a early 4th or mid 4th round grade on him, so I was absolutely ecstatic with that pick. My least favorite pick, it has nothing to do with the player, but Riley Moss, and just it's that trade up for him. I mean, I would have liked that trade up a little more, even if it was just a future 4th instead of a 3rd. But it being a future 3rd, future 4th still isn't great for me, but just the trade up to go get him was just a little, and just kind of ruins the pick a little bit for me.
I agree with you on Riley Moss being probably my least favorite, and for the exact same reasons, quite honestly. Trading that future 3rd. I understand the Broncos did a pick swap with the New Orleans Saints in order to acquire Sean Payton, where they sent, I believe it was next year's 2nd round pick in exchange for next year's 3rd round pick from the New Orleans Saints, if I remember that correctly. So they have the extra 3rd round pick that they can kind of give up. And that was one of the reasons that George Paton said they actually made the move on that, was because they had that extra 3rd round pick. So while I understand the idea behind going there, I don't like trading up in general to go and get a player, especially if you have to give up future draft capital. So for that, I will say Moss is probably my least favorite pick in terms of the value they gave up. And I know that I just said I don't like trading up for players, but the guy that they traded up for to get into the 2nd round to go and get Marvin Mims easily was my most favorite pick of this class, because he fits multiple different needs. The Broncos need to get better on special teams in terms of their gunner play. They need to be better in punt return and kick return as well. They also needed a deep threat that can actually be reliable and show consistent hands in the passing game. Who's a good route runner. He also plays well above the rim for a guy his size. He's got that physicality you like in the running game. So while I don't like trading up for players in general, at least the Broncos didn't have to give up a whole lot to move up 5 spots to go and get Marvin Mims. So I really liked that move from what the Broncos did. Moss is probably the least favorite one, like you said, just because that future 3rd round pick, but he's a great player. He's just a good football player, and the Broncos got better this past weekend. That's what they did. They added 5 good football players and then a 6th with another trade to get Adam Troutman. So good job to the Broncos this last weekend. I'm really excited for the direction moving forward. We got Phil McLaughlin jumping in here. Good evening, Lance. And he says Lance again, but also Eric. Thank you for all the work you guys put in for the excellent draft coverage. Go Broncos, MHH for life. Thank you, Phil, man. Your support was definitely noted over the weekend. And always, your support is always well noted for everybody here at Mile High Huddle. Gary Palmer jumping in here as well off the top rope with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Gary, for joining us as always, man. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Hey, Lance and Eric, just wanted to show some appreciation for all your hard work on the draft. Go Broncos. Thank you, Gary. Man, we definitely appreciate that.
Now, real quick, I just want to go back to talking about Riley Moss, and my big issue with the trade here, since I didn't really give it, is next year they did give up that 2nd for that 3rd round pick for the Saints as part of the Sean Payton trade. So now they have a 1st and a 3rd, and whichever 3rd they send for this trade up, I can't remember who they traded up for with this pick. It's the lower one, so they still get to keep the higher pick of the 2.
Yep.
But you fall, you go what? 8-9, 9-8, whatever. You missed the playoffs. Russell Wilson was fine. Not great, though. Well, you're not in a position to land one of the top quarterbacks. You're essentially screwed. And that's my issue is if we knew for sure that Russell Wilson was able to bounce back and even be a top, 12, 15 quarterback, then sure, fine. Still not a big fan of the trade, but you just put yourself in such a bad position if you fall into that middle ground. And adding to that is they're doing everything they can to take the ball out of Russell Wilson's hand, to really go a heavy run game and defense. So that can carry you. And if that carries you to that point and Russell Wilson's still an issue, you're just SOL. Like you're out of luck because you got to wait another year. And next year's draft class is projected to be extremely good. 5 or 6 quarterbacks there, if they all come out, that people are already talking about as top 15 picks. Granted, things will change as the season goes on, and maybe somebody else rises up, or maybe a couple players fall. Remains to be seen, but it just looks so good right now to just put yourself out of position. Even without that second round pick, having those 2/3 would be such a boost. So that's a big reason why I didn't have issue with that. Michael Ronquillo came in and saying that my favorite pick is safety J.L. Skinner, and my least favorite is Riley Moss. J.L. Skinner is a good pick. I mean, obviously, the fact that he tore his pec 2 days prior to the combine, it's a big reason for his fall. So, yes. I mean, and that goes.
Sorry, you caught me taking a drink there. I agree with you on that. Like J.L. Skinner, I had a 3rd round grade on. I know that that was probably a little bit higher than most people in the consensus was, but I like J.L. Skinner. I think he brings a lot of physicality, a lot of versatility, and he's a core special teams player with over 450 special team snaps played at Boise State. You know what you're getting with this guy. Brent P. off the top rope. Holy cow. Massive super chat. Thank you, Brent. This is the first time I've seen your name in the chat. So welcome in and thank you so much for showing your support, man. We definitely appreciate that. Brent says, thanks for all your hard work, Eric and Lance. What has been your favorite UDFA pick, the undrafted free agency pick? For me, I'll go quickly here. I haven't really got a chance to break down his tape, but I've heard a lot about Thomas Incoon, the edge defender from Central Michigan. High upside guy, high upside pass rusher from the sound of it. A fairly decent run defender, though he can do some work there. Definitely needs to get some bigger size to him, from what I understand. So I cannot wait to do that. I will be having film breakdowns of all 5 draft picks and several of the UDFAs coming over the summer. So that's the one that I'm going to shout out. Eric, what do you think, man?
I mean, my thing is I tend to wait for the official announcement from the team for UDFAs. Too many times over the years, like there's just such an issue with the process. Players double commit to 2 different teams to sign with them and come to find then they find out, oh, well, you can't do that. It's still an issue with that. And so it's always like, oh, this one team, like it gets announced that this team's signing with it, and they come to find out when the official announcement he didn't actually do that. So it's difficult for me. I like to wait for the official announcement from the team. Even a lot of the beat reporters, they can be wrong on it. Of the ones that have been reported, I'm with Lance here. Thomas Incoon, he was the guy that was right there in the 5th round for me that I felt that I really liked. I was really high on him. He raises the floor of it. He doesn't really raise the ceiling a whole lot. There is some room for growth there, but kind of where he's at now is kind of what he's going to be. He's a solid run defender. He's a solid pass rusher. That's the guy I like the most, and he's the only one that I've seen like consistently mentioned. So again, just want to wait for the official announcement, and I can't tell you how frustrated I am that official announcement has yet to come, because I always do my article about it, breaking them down with all the stuff that I did pre-draft, and then the guys that I didn't watch, I go and watch them. And I'm last after next week. I'll miss a week, so I'm going on vacation and on leaving the 14th. So running out of time here to get this done. Broncos, come on, you got to work on my schedule.
Got to work on everybody else's schedule, but that seems to be the theme here with this Broncos team. Is this just upsetting the apple cart in terms of the culture and everything that's going on here? The social media presence, not only from the Broncos, but also the players in general, has been lackluster, to say the least. We're not getting a whole lot. I mean, they'll talk about it tomorrow on the Saturday show with I believe it's Mile High Insiders. It's Thomas and Luke that are going to be on, because I think that Ron and Thomas did on Tuesday. Anyways, so Thomas and Luke are going to talk about Passer Tanwin on GMFB tomorrow. But there's not a whole lot of news coming out. We're not seeing anything from a bunch of these players or the social media aspect of everything. So it's hard to kind of follow along with. Troy Boer jumping in here, $5 super chat. Troy was a big supporter of the show, especially over the weekend. So thank you, Troy, for joining us here on a Friday night. It's nice to see you back in the chat. Love the picture of that golden retriever, by the way.
I was just getting ready to say it. Unlike Nick, we won't mention the gold retriever in the picture.
I had to do it, man. It's that thing. It's like it was the lasting impression because Nick always had to mention it. Anyways, so Troy jumps in and says, "Thank you guys. Do you think that Vance Joseph is the reason we got the international player? I can't remember his name. I can't remember his full name, but it's Haggai Ndubuisi. I'm not sure where he's from. I didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of research on him. Eric, if you have anything on this, greatly appreciated. I do appreciate what they're doing here. I believe it's is it, I can't remember who it is. It's a famous player that's actually kind of coordinating the IPP process. Do you have any information on this for us?
He was a former Giants defensive lineman.
Yeah, Justin Tuck, right?
No. OC.
OC Umanura. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was great to hear. I don't know if Vance Joseph is the reason why we got him. From what I understand, everybody in the building wanted him. Everybody. And when they with how they go about it is like everybody, all the coaches, the scouts, even people in the front office, like we want this guy. He's from Nigeria, as Peter Milton comes in and tells us. Went to Ghana and then London. Thank you, Peter, for all that. I knew he was from Nigeria. I didn't know the Ghana to London part. I'm excited for it because I love that the NFL is expanding, trying to reach out to international players and expanding the borders of the game and just trying to make it more worldwide. I really like that, and I just giving these guys a chance. I'm all for opening up the window or the doors for more players to get better opportunities, because right now the NFL is very limited, and there's been talk about expanding the draft process, adding a few rounds to it to help the UDFA process. Though it's still UDFA. I'm all for that stuff because it's all about expanding the opportunity. And as much as coaches and GMs all want to say, oh, we could give everybody, no matter where you're drafted or signed or whatever, or how much you're paid, we give everybody equal opportunity. That's BS. They don't. They care about where you're drafted. They care about how much money you get made. And on that point, like one of those issues with the Broncos last year on the offensive line, the more money you made, the more likely you were to get played. That was just an issue they have. It's an issue throughout the NFL. So I'm happy he is. I hope he makes an impact. I hope he's able to take this opportunity and make something for himself. I absolutely love just the expanding of the borders from the NFL.
I'm with you on that one. And Peter jumped in as well, saying that there were 16 tryout players too. That was quite amazing to hear. I don't remember all of their names off the top of my head. I've been busy this last couple of days, but the Broncos brought in 3 XFL players, including Ben DiNucci, formerly with, I believe, the Arizona Cardinals and famously with the Dallas Cowboys, as he got to play a little bit after Dak Prescott. And I believe it was it Andy Dalton, I believe, went down with injury. So Ben DiNucci has seen some time in the NFL, bounced around a little bit, but he's one of the leading passers in the XFL. They brought in a running back and I believe an edge defender as well from the XFL ranks. So trying to expand that, trying to get some more players in here, just turning over all stones to try to find as much talent as they possibly can. Great to see this direction for the Broncos, honestly, being as inclusive as you possibly can, no matter where you're from, no matter what league you've been playing in, if you're even in the NFL or in college football. So I definitely appreciate that. Now, Michael Lazzari jumping in here saying, wanted to say, I watched all of it with you, Eric and Lance. Great work. Thank you so very much. And Michael, I saw your name a lot in the chat as well. So thank you a whole bunch for joining us, man. It was a grind. And without you guys' support, we couldn't do what we do best, which is cover the Denver Broncos and cover the NFL draft, man. So thank you all again, over and over again, a million times. Thank you for all of your support over this last week, especially, but for all of draft, all year and all of draft season, especially. With that, Eric, I want to kind of get into our conversation here. I know you've got some stuff going on tonight. I've got some stuff going on as well. So we're going to kind of make this a little bit quicker, guys. But the Broncos, obviously, they went and they got a wide receiver. They got Drew Sanders, that linebacker from Arkansas, who has some edge rush potential as well. Was an edge rusher at Alabama before he transferred to Arkansas. Riley Moss as well, J.L. Skinner, Alex Forsyth. That was a draft class. They still have some needs to address here. You and I kind of talked briefly before we came on here, and I gave you 3 positions that I kind of wanted to talk about. And we also have our guy, Dylan Von Arx, who brought an article up on milehighhuddle.com. With the Broncos persisting roster holes worth worrying over, his top three were my same top three in defensive end, defensive line and edge, also the running back position, and also the center position. I have three players that actually fill those needs. I'll probably write an article for milehighhuddle.com here in the next couple of days. But Erick, you had two positions that were not listed on this that you wanted to kind of briefly talk about, specifically at the safety position. What's your thoughts, man? How we doing?
Yeah, I understand JL Skinner. Like he's a great value. He's a great pick. He's still a rookie, and our projected starter next to Justin Simmons has barely played 500 snaps in the NFL.
Yep.
Give me someone veteran for just an additional depth piece, even if they don't end up starting. Adrian Amos, he didn't have the best year. It wasn't a terrible year. Deron Harmon or Lamarcus Joyner. I really like Lamarcus Joyner. I like his versatility in the secondary that he has. Any of those three, I think they would just round out the room so well. You can still have PJ Locke. You can have them. JL Skinner can sit there and work his way up. I mean, he's still recovering from the torn pec, even though he's expected to be good to go by end of June, early July. So it still needs some work. I have a hard time just trusting a starting position to a guy who I think has played just over 500 snaps total in his career. I have an issue with that. He's shown promise and everything, but he's also coming back from that hip injury. So that's just my concern there. Just bringing in somebody else for that. The other position that I have that isn't in the thing is offensive tackle. Who's your swing tackle? We don't have one.
Yep.
There isn't one for the Broncos right now. Cameron Fleming did a great job filling in last year on both sides of it. He was probably one of the better offensive linemen the Broncos put out there last year. Worth bringing him back, or looking at the New York Jets' George Fant, who was really solidifying his spot like as a starter before he got hurt. I want to say back in 2021 is when he started doing that, and then there's so much issues there. I think either of those guys are worth giving a look. They've shown that they have that versatility to flip sides and bring some, solid depth to it as that swing tackle that Denver lacks.
You're absolutely correct on George Fant and Cam Fleming as well. And those are the two names that first popped into my head as soon as you said offensive tackle, to be quite honest. George Fant was a starter, I believe, at left tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. So he has some experience working with Russell Wilson as well. So starting experience, can play both the left and right side. Obviously, that fills the need. Cam Fleming, again, we all know what he did last year, was arguably the best offensive lineman on the field for the Broncos last year after Garrett Bowles went down. And even while Garrett Bowles was still playing, Cam Fleming at right tackle was still very good last year. So that's definitely a big one for me. You also hit the name that I would have thrown out there for safety in terms of Adrian Amos. That was a big name that I really liked. John Johnson as well. I believe he was with Cleveland for a little while, was a cap casualty. Young safety. I think he's only 27 years old, had a rough up and down season. I think he might be injured as well. But regardless, safety is a big need for me. And like you said, JL Skinner, you can probably play Riley Mosser if you wanted to, kind of a versatile defensive back. And the Broncos kind of alluded to that a little bit. They're going to try him at cornerback first. If it doesn't work out there, he can definitely play that safety role. He's better off of the ball than playing in press coverage. So that definitely will help him if he does move to safety. So I like that a little bit, but still, like you said, Caden Stearns coming off the hip injury. There was a lot of inconsistencies with him the last couple of seasons while he was out there on the field. He flashed a lot as a rookie, but there's still that second year, you got the injury. There's just too many questions with him right now. You got to have a veteran presence on the back end to help along with Justin Simmons, who, I mean, this may be his last season in Denver. There's an out in his contract, and they could be moving on there. So if Skinner takes over for Justin Simmons in the future, you still got to have an option for that in terms of a backup or even as another player alongside a starter role. So Adrian Amos is the guy that I'm really looking at. Now, getting to the meat and potatoes of Dylan's article here, I'm going to go to the offensive line here, and I'm going to go to the center position. And I understand the Broncos just went out and brought in a high upside guy, not really like the highest ceiling of a player, just a solid player. He's going to raise the floor of the room in Alex Forsyth. But they also brought in Kyle Fuller, a veteran with experience playing with Russell Wilson. They still have Lloyd Cushenberry. Center, to me, is still a need. Like Forsyth, for what it could be, is definitely a very good option, but Cushenberry's been an abject failure, and Kyle Fuller is just a guy. So There's a player that was released today from the Washington Commanders. His name is Chase Roulier. He's a 5-year starter. He's been in the NFL for 6 seasons. He has major injury concerns, though. He broke his fibula back in 2021, and then in 2022 he had a knee injury that required surgery, and he missed the entirety of the 2022 season except for 2 games. Played 150 snaps. But when this dude is healthy, he is a top 5 interior offensive lineman in terms of pass protection. He's only surrendered 5 total sacks in his 6 total seasons as an NFL player. And let me see, I have my notes here. In 2020, he played over 1,100 snaps, only allowed 1 sack and 17 total pressures from the center position, and a team that went to the playoffs. Chase Roulier, in terms of a veteran player, 29 years old, he turns 30 in August. You can probably get him on a cheap deal because he's a veteran player at a lesser valued position and has injury concerns. What do you think, Eric? Does that make sense?
So my issue with him, I mean, besides the injuries, because there's another guy here, another couple guys here that I have that also have injury concerns. Obviously, you're talking vet minimum. Like, I'm not giving any of these guys a bigger deal than a vet minimum because of the injury concerns they have. Can he hold up in a more power gap concept scheme? That is my question. He's always been more inside zone, outside zone. And when they have done, power gap stuff, it just hasn't been the prettiest.
Right.
Can he work in that? I think it's worth giving a shot. I really liked him coming out of college. I followed his career pretty closely because he was one of my favorite. He was one of my draft crushes that year. And I like him, and for a vet minimum, he's worth the chance. He's worth the shot there, to see if you can make him work in the scheme, and at least upgrade your pass protection there, because that is such a big issue with Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry likes to lose slowly, and hey, that's fine if your quarterback didn't hold the ball so long. Yep. Chase Roulier, he does well. He doesn't lose slowly. He just holds his own consistently. The other guy is Ben Jones. Obviously, there's no question with the scheme about him, but the concussions. Where is he at with those? Is he medically cleared? That's such a big concern. And then Justin Britt. I mean, he's a fine center. Like, he can handle the scheme, but again, there's been some injury history there with him that you got to check in. So any of those 3 guys, I'm fine with, as long as you sit there and try to get him on a vet minimum deal. And real quick, to go back to George Fant, since we have Fant is no good and Fant is a bum. Fant, before he got hurt in 2021, was viewed as like a top 5 tackle. He really struggled in 2022 because he was pushed back before he was fully ready to go. He had issues as a starter beforehand. I understand that. I wouldn't say he's a bum. I'm not saying he's a great tackle either. For a guy who can be a swing tackle depth, of the options that are available, he's one of the better options out there. Unfortunately or not, it's just how it is. He's just one of the better options out there.
Well, and something you want to always kind of try to remember here, guys, is that you're not looking for a guy to come out there and start for you right away. You paid Mike McGlinchey $75 million, and Garrett Bowles, you paid $72 million 3 years ago. Like, who your starters are. So long as they're healthy, those are the guys that are going to be there. And with Fant, what are you looking at here? You've got a guy with starter upside that can play on either side of the offensive line, and he raises the floor of the room. Like, what other offensive tackle do the Broncos have on the roster right now that's not named Quinn Bailey, who, Eric, I know you liked, not a super huge fan of. I thought he's probably better at guard, but there's no swing tackle on this roster. And George Fant is a great swing tackle. He's a great option here. It raises the floor of the room.
Yeah, and I like Quinn Bailey, and I didn't like him at all that much at guard, but he's fine there. He's just a solid, versatile depth that can play inside and outside. He's not who you want as a swing tackle, though. Then you have Isaiah Prince and Christian DeLauro. Those are your other 2 tackle options that you have on the roster. I'm not trusting either one of them. I would take George Fant over any of those 3 players. Now we have Michael coming in, Michael Roche with a $4.99 donation, saying, "Sup guys, I don't usually catch the live shows. What's y'all's opinions about the Edge Room? Also, here's some money." Hey, we appreciate that, Michael. We appreciate your support. I'm glad you can join us live. It's always a little bit more fun, I think, joining us live than listening it back. But I mean, the next step with where we're going, defensive line and edge. I I still want addition. It's the same kind of theory, same kind of philosophy I have with the safety room as to why I want help at edge. You have a bunch of guys who can't stay out there on the field and unproven young depth, with their best option, most reliable option being Jonathan Cooper, who for me is a solid fourth or fifth guy on a squad. Randy Gregory's never played a full season. Suspensions and injuries have been an issue with that. Baron Browning through 2 years has missed a lot more time than you wish. Multiple games where he's even coming out for a series or two and then going back in. So just a lot of concerns there. And then defensive line, like Aoma Uwazurike, yeah, maybe you get some development from him. Matt Henningsen, and we had this whole discussion there on, I believe, last Saturday during the draft. They really like him as a nose tackle, and like I'm not fully for it, but he's a smaller pass rusher nose tackle. Like I get that, I guess. That's where they view him. But who's your Deshaun Williams replacement? They're missing that. And I don't like the idea of going big on the defensive line with DJ Jones, Mike Purcell, and then Zach Allen. I think your pass rush potential is taking such a hit that way.
Yeah.
Like, because at least Deshaun Williams was somewhat decent, getting some internal push as a pass rusher. Yeah. And Mike Purcell offers almost nothing there.
Yeah, especially coming as a 3-tech for Deshaun Williams. When he was playing the 3-tech, man, he was so great. So great. Like coming into the guard's face and pushing him from the pocket that way. He was so good there. In terms of the edge defense, I want to go there because I have a guy here, Eric. And this is going to make sense mostly as a veteran guy who's been very reliable. Not necessarily the most flashy player, solid in the running game, had 4 sacks this last season. He's older, but he also has a lot of experience playing under Vance Joseph. I'm talking about Marcus Golden, the edge defender from the Arizona Cardinals. Yep, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yep. So the edge defender from the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, 4 sacks this last season. He's got that relationship with Vance Joseph. He played 300 snaps this last year. Like I said, 32 years old. He just turned 32, so he's going to be in his 32-year-old season. Like I said, decent run defender, not great, but he can at least go out there and be a solid veteran presence, a guy that can help teach these young guys. Baron Browning's still super raw for the position, and so is Nick Bonito, who – as a second-round pick, definitely hasn't shown what you want from a player from that high of a draft capital. And going back to Dylan's article, that was one of the things that he specifically mentioned was Nick Bonito has to show a lot better. To me, you will go out and you get a guy who has been relatively healthy for the majority of his career, maybe on the back nine, so you can get him at a veteran minimum deal, maybe for $1.5 million, something like that. I believe his last deal was 1 year, $6.5 million. You're probably not going to get him for that cost this year. A guy that, again, has familiarity in the scheme. What do you think, man? Is that an option?
Yeah, he was my top guy. For edge specifically, I went down in between defensive line and edge. I went through and I got 5 names down, and he was the top one. One of the things that stands out when I watch him is he's a technician, and that is what Denver can use using a veteran, because even Randy Gregory's technique is still like has a long way to go. Yeah. They don't have a technician on the roster. And the coaches, like, they can teach technique, but it always helps when you have somebody who can sit there and show them in practice and do it in front of their eyes, instead of just trying to teach them that they can show it to them. I really like Marcus Golden. I think he would be a good option as that number 3 guy. You can start him when somebody goes down with an injury. Solid run defender, not great, of course, but he's fine enough. And then the other one that I want, if you want to go with another veteran, Melvin Ingram. If you look at there's a reason why I really like Melvin Ingram. When you look at his size, it's not typical for what you want as an edge rusher. But go and look at some of the other edge rushers the Broncos have. Nick Bonito, he doesn't have ideal size. Jonathan Cooper, he doesn't have ideal size. Even Baron Browning, he's got decent length, but the weight and the way his build, it's not great.
Yeah.
Melvin Ingram made a career of being Melvin Ingram, and throughout his career, made a living getting after the quarterback despite not having prototypical size. He knows the tips and tricks, and that is something that's so valuable that he can help pass on to some of the guys that the Broncos have.
Yeah. I want to go slide a position inside here, right off the top of my head, and I know that he was a cap casualty, part of the Russell Wilson trade, former Seattle Seahawk, former Denver Bronco, Shelby Harris. The Broncos need to have another, like you said, 3 technique interior defensive lineman, a guy that can play inside the tackle, play over the top of the guard, has some decent pass rush ability, can push the pocket. Is that relationship dead in Denver? Or is there a possibility that with Sean Payton, now that the regime has completely changed, I understand George Payton's still in the fold, and he was a guy that was obviously the driving force of that Russell Wilson trade and making sure that that got done. Is there a possibility that we see Shelby Harris brought back to this Broncos team and have kind of a family reunion of sorts?
Would
you be for that? Let's just answer that question first.
No, I would not be for it.
Okay.
And the biggest reason why is the fan perception of Shelby Harris has always been he's so much better than he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would I be willing to take a look at him if there isn't the whole issue of him getting traded, if there isn't bad blood there? I still wouldn't mind it, because who did Deshaun Williams' role before Deshaun Williams?
Shelby Harris.
So it wouldn't be ideal for me. I would rather look elsewhere. But maybe a new coaching staff. But the issue is that Marcus Dixon, the position coach, is still the same guy.
Right.
George Payton's still there. And Shelby Harris, the big issue with him was he didn't like how Denver went about it. He found out from television. He found out watching ESPN.
Yeah.
And now his family still lives in Denver because he and his wife had the agreement. If anything ever happened, they won't move their kids while they're in school. So he won't uproot his family. He didn't uproot his family with that. And Chase Woolner comes in. Isn't Shelby familiar with Vance Joseph? There is familiarity there, but that may not be the positive boost that connections are often perceived to be. Yeah. Not all connections in the NFL are good connections. I'm not saying it's a bad one, but it's just kind of I don't think it moves the needle either way. His familiarity and connection with Vance Joseph, just because of things that happened while he was there. Now on the defensive line, there's 3 guys that I have real quick. Matt Ioannidis, who he has always played a similar role to what Denver would be looking for. Mario Edwards, who's a little bit smaller, but he's a solid run defender who can get after the quarterback. He, I think, would help bring more depth for Zach Allen's side of the field than, replacing Deshaun Williams. And then Akeem Hicks, who he's got good versatility about it. And if they do want to go bigger, if they do want to go with a DJ Jones, Mike Purcell, and Akeem Hicks, and then Zach Allen, I think Akeem Hicks brings in solid versatility to move around the line to really fill in on any of those 3 spots that they're looking at, and just provide some veteran versatile depth to the unit. That's right now you're looking at Jonathan Harris and 2 second-year players as the depth right now.
Yeah. And with Akeem Hicks, like you said, he has that versatility to slide all over the defensive line. When you put him straight up as a nose tackle or even as a 1 technique above the center in passing situations, he's obliterates offensive lines. He does a great job as a pass rusher in those kinds of situations. So that one I'm here for with you on. Last one real quick. High upside guy, a guy that was projected to be a potential first-round pick, I believe in 2019, maybe 2020, somewhere around in that specific area, out of Michigan, Maurice Hurst. He's a former Oakland Raider and spent his last season with the San Francisco 49ers. Free agent guy, probably not going to cost a whole lot, and there are some health concerns with his heart, although he's been medically cleared for several years now to continue play. What do you think about Maurice Hurst? Is that like one of those high upside players that you could potentially see brought in on a cheap deal?
I think his career is essentially done.
Okay.
And because he hasn't played in the NFL since 2021.
I think you might be right on that. I remember seeing him on that list. So.
And and not only that, he is actually under contract.
Oh, really? So then
he signed on March 18th with the Cleveland Browns. So
okay,
he's not even an option.
Okay, well, never mind then. His the spot rack is failing me here a little bit because he was still on their free agency list. So I do apologize for that, everybody. Let's switch gears here, though. We got just a few more minutes before we got to get out of here. Eric, I know you got plans tonight. So do I as well. I need to sleep. It's been a long week. I do want to go to the third position in Dylan's article. We haven't got there yet, but I think that it's actually one of the sneakier needs for this team, and that's a running back position. obviously the Broncos went out and they signed Samaje Perine to a deal. And I like him. He's a versatile player. Hasn't really ever got a true opportunity as a full-time starter. But right now, he's the guy, the main guy on the Broncos roster, because we don't know what's happening with Javonte Williams coming off of 3 torn knee ligaments. We don't even know if we're going to see him this season. Like, the range of his return is either late in training camp, maybe early in the season, to not seeing him at all in 2023, and good luck for 2024. After that, it's Tony Jones. Demaria Crockett's still on the practice squad. They have Jaquan McMillan. They have another undrafted free agent potentially that we haven't seen fully signed yet. So the running back room is quite honestly in shambles right now, and they got to get another guy here. The problem is they don't have very much cap space. The Broncos have $6.4 million in cap space. If they want to go sign a guy, you're not getting Ezekiel Elliott. You're not getting Leonard Fournette. You're not getting Kareem Hunt. It's not possible unless they move on from a guy like Courtland Sutton to open up that cap space, man. Running back, dude, where are you at here?
Well, first of all, Jaquan McMillan is a cornerback. I think you're meaning Tyreek McAllister.
Yes, I am. You're right. Sorry.
So they definitely need somebody, and like, I know a lot of people have been praising the one undrafted free agent that they're rumored to be signing, but like, I don't know. Undrafted, every year there seems to be this undrafted free agent running back that Bronco fans fall in love with, and he's going to be a great thing. Last year, I mean, Tyreek McAllister had a lot of hype because he brought speed. He was so fast. And then the year before that, there was what's his face? The Central Michigan kid who had like 30 touchdowns in a season or whatever it was. I can't remember his name now, but he was going to be the next big Broncos running back. So every year there's always somebody that gets all this hype for it. And it's like they never hit. Like, I love taking the shots because, hey, it's much better value for the Broncos, much better investment for them. Just constantly, just bring in those undrafted free agents, and maybe one day one of them will stand out. But for me, it's like, with what you're looking at, Samaje Perine, he's always been a backup. He should be able to handle the top job pretty well, but we haven't seen it yet. It's unproven. And then the rest of the guys they have on roster, they have a combined like 80 total touches on offense.
Yeah,
if 500 snaps gives me an issue, 80 total touches between a group of like 4 running backs gives me an issue. Right. Kareem Hunt, I would be fine with taking a look at on a veteran minimum deal. He can be the type of back that the Broncos are looking for. And we know he can be a backup guy. Hasn't been that great the last 2 years. Maybe there's some juice left that you can get out of him. Darrell Henderson, he's another one. He was a higher draft pick for the Los Angeles Rams a few years ago. Never has really caught on, but he's another one. We know he can be that receiving back. We know he's got some solid speed to break away. He's a solid runner. So he's another one that I would look at and just go in. There's a couple running backs I was looking at, but the board just didn't fall to where they would take a running back.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm with you on that one. Obviously, you were stumping for Evan Holder for a while. I was a big fan of Dwayne McBride out of UAB. Yeah. There was a handful of players. Eric Gray out of Oklahoma was a player I was really intrigued by. And Mike S. jumping in here, making sure we don't forget about Tony Jones Jr., who has been a practice squad player. I think he has like 7 total carries in the NFL. Sure, he's a Sean Payton guy.
Jones, he's got the most. He has like 60. He has like almost 70 total touches in the NFL. He's the one who has most of them of the group.
Yeah, and it's not a lot. And Samaje Perine has only had 95 carries in it, like more than 95 carries in a season, like one time ever, and that was his rookie year. So, like, let's not talk about a bell cow back from a guy that's never been a bell cow back. I got a name for you though, intriguing one, and you're probably gonna laugh at me, but I think it's fun. Former 7th round pick out of Alabama, Kenyon Drake. 7-year player, has experience with Vance Joseph. Not that Vance Joseph at the time he was the head coach, so he probably wasn't, and him being a defensive guy probably wasn't in the whole offensive room a whole lot, but at least they have experience and cross their paths a little bit. Last year, he had over 100 carries for Baltimore, 4.4 yards per carry average for 482 total yards. Had 17 receptions last year as well for 89 yards. He has 215 total career receptions for 1,650 yards and 96 career carries that have gone for 10 plus yards. So you're talking about a receiver, a guy that can come out of the backfield as a receiving threat, has the great fumble rate. He rarely fumbles the football, has some explosiveness in his lower half. Sure, he's a little bit older, but you're talking same thing as Latavius Murray that the Broncos did last season. They need a guy to come and fill out the depth. He fits the scheme. He can actually offer you a little bit something else that what Samaje Perine doesn't add with that explosive speed in his lower half. I mean, if you can get him for $1 million, am I wrong? Is that a bad idea?
I would be cautious of that because there's been a lot of attitude stuff with Kenyon Drake going around. And then grabbing this, Lou Nichols. Lou Nichols was a Central Michigan running back from this year who was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He is not the guy I was thinking of because that was from a few years ago. This was like 2020 or so. He had I'm trying to find it. He had a bunch of touchdowns. So it shouldn't be too hard to find.
He was a smaller back too, if I remember right? Like he was
smaller, he was fast, like he had good speed and everything. It may not have been out of Central Michigan though. I may be mistaken on that aspect of it. But it was a smaller school running back. I just can't remember the name of, but it's not important. That was from a few years ago. And then Michael Ronquillo says running back Jaleel McLaughlin. He's the guy this year. He's the one that's getting so much hype because he's fast. And it just goes into what I was talking about earlier. I just want to see if maybe he is the guy to catch on. Just got to wait and see. So it's just, it is what it is. I've checked him out. I'm not holding my breath. So just on that one, personally.
I found your running back, by the way. It's Western Michigan running back, undrafted free agent Levante Bellamy.
Yes, Western Michigan. I knew it was a Michigan. Yep. My bad. I thought it was Central.
No, you're good because he was former Bronco turned into a Bronco, Western Michigan Bronco running back Levante Bellamy, smaller back, did score 30 touchdowns in a season, including it was like 11 of them were receiving, I believe. Regardless, still fun. A lot of good conversation here, and I'm glad that I actually brought some stuff to the conversation where you agreed with me. Chase Roulier, Marcus Golden, Kenyon Drake. I didn't know that there was attitude issues with him, but in terms of just the overall fit, if you're talking about just the player himself, what he brings to the field, would that make sense for the Broncos if they could get around the attitude issues? Just last thought on that.
That's the type of running back they should be looking for, and that's kind of like we talked about that a lot pre-draft. Everybody's mentioning these big, powerful backs, and it's like either big, powerful backs or guys like McBride who have a crappy fumble rate. Just push those guys aside and find somebody who can be kind of explosive and still have a decent fumble rate. And there were some good ones in the draft, and I don't know Kenyon Drake's fumble rate off the top of my head. So maybe he doesn't fit that aspect of it. But
it's actually really good. I think he only has 2 career fumbles in 7 seasons.
Well, I can pull him up real quick and double and check on that. But fumble rate was a big thing for the Broncos this year, and it's a big thing for a lot of teams. He has fumbled. It is well over the 100 mark, but he has fumbled 10 times in his career.
Okay,
but he's had well over 1,000 touches, over 13, almost 24 or 1,400 touches in his career on offense. So the miles might be a little up there. But it's a solid fumble rate anyways.
Yeah. Regardless, again, just a good conversation. Thank you for having it with me, and thank you all for joining us and joining in for the conversation. The chat was great. Michael Ronquillo jumping in here last time, saying great show tonight, Lance and Eric on the Death Valley Deep Divers. Go Broncos and buck them. Buck you too, Michael. We definitely appreciate your support, man, as always, and thank you for all of your support across the Mile High Huddle podcast network. Thank you all for joining us. We definitely appreciate you guys. Follow us on Twitter by finding me at Lance S_MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Eric and the EL in Trickel. Also, guys, make sure you guys are following at Mile High Huddle. That's some other account where you guys find breaking news and analysis regarding your Denver Broncos. Any film breakdowns, opinion articles, analytics articles from Thomas Hall, salary cap stuff from Bob Morris. anything regarding the Broncos, you're going to be able to find it there. Guys, if you're on Facebook, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. It's a great way to continue the conversation over there as well. Folks, if you guys aren't financially able to do so in terms of super chats and stars donations, please, the best way you guys can support the show, no matter what show it is, subscribe to Mile High Huddle across all platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, especially on Apple Podcasts. Gives that 5-star review. Let us know what you think of the show as well. Like every video and article you guys see on social media. And if you love it, please share it, guys. Get it out in front of as many Broncos fans as possible, because like I say every single weekend, like I always mean, we couldn't do what we do best without your guys' support, which is cover the Denver Broncos. So, Erick, while we have just a couple more minutes here, any last words, man? How you doing? You look exhausted. You look like you need to go take a nap.
Yeah. Marlon Mack, real quick. This came in while you're talking. Marlon Mack is another one that I wouldn't mind looking at bringing it back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to my vacation that I have coming up. Going to be a lot of traveling, a lot of driving, flying into Utah. Going to drive over to Denver. So just a lot of driving, and a lot of driving with the almost 6-year-old is going to be fun, I guess. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to get away. I'm excited that I get to take a step back this month after doing everything for the last since February for the draft. Really diving in, putting in 12, 15-hour days at times, getting things all finished up for that. But thank you guys for joining us. I will be here next week, but the 19th it will be Lance and somebody else. Not sure who yet, but thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for your support. You guys are awesome. Stay safe this weekend.
Yeah. Thank you all again. And again, Erick, you deserve the time off, man, for all the work that you put in. I know how much work you put in. You deserve an opportunity to take a break and just enjoy some vacation time with you and your family and go see Luke for a little while. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for you to send a whole bunch of pictures and hit him in the arm for me, because that's what we do here. We have fun with our friends. Anyways, guys, you all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week.